Hello and welcome to another Consilium video. We've done quite a lot of these over the past year or so and they're online and available to watch. But what we're going to be talking about today is Mobilomics, which is a term that we've been using quite a bit in our meetings recently as we've been going up and down the country and speaking to local authorities about mobile working. And Mobilomics is the economics of mobile working, and what we cover here is the why, the what, and how you would go about mobilising your workforce, and specifically our corporate ready approach, which is going to be so crucial to councils in 2011. Okay, so here's the why. So the question why mobilise has been discussed a lot over the past few years, but it's worth revisiting here just to frame the video to explain where we're coming from in terms of our corporate ready approach. For everyone here at Consilium, we believe it's quite a simple argument. It's really just all about making savings, increasing the efficiency, improving your productivity, and ensuring compliance and safety across your workforce. So to highlight this point in more detail, what we're going to do is give you the story of one of our customers who has quite a small gas inspection team, and some of the numbers that were involved around delivering that service to the tenants in their area. Okay, so in order to measure the efficiencies, we're going to need some inputs. On the left hand side here we can see the gas inspectors and the admin assistants, and on the right hand side we can see performance information that's going to help us calculate the savings. So we can clearly see what this service is costing us and the current rate that they're performing at. Moving on to the outputs then. Let's look at the effect of using TotalMobile to mobilise this particular workforce. That's the effect of the guys in the field, what that means to the guys in the back office, and also we're going to look at some of the cashable savings too. Now the figures that you're looking at the moment are actually quite on the conservative side really. We've got sites that see field efficiencies way up into the high 30s. So where were these efficiencies generated then? Well, for your guys out in the field, they can go straight to their first job without coming into the office, so they're saving time. Obviously all the data they're collecting directly onto the device isn't going on paper and therefore doesn't need to be retyped anymore. So the effect on the back office staff is that there's less paper lying around and the data is going straight into the back office system. Ultimately, in a gas inspection environment, that means you can automate a lot of the certification that's generated through the mobile collection of this data. So when we start totaling up the columns here, we can see that there's a couple ways of looking at this. So looking at the left-hand column, we can see that there's over £72,000 worth of efficiency savings that could be redirected into other frontline services. Or equally, on the right-hand side, you can see that extra capacity equating to over 1,600 jobs has been generated alongside cashable savings to improve service delivery. And all this from a 12-person team in a single year. So that's the why, and it's an extremely compelling argument, and councils are buying into that up and down the country. But the question that councils are asking now is, what are my options when choosing a mobile working solution? So currently we believe that there's three main approaches out there that are available at the moment to councils when it comes to tackling a mobile working project. But what's interesting about the three different approaches is that the technical methods used to create the platform can have significant consequences on the council's ability to fully roll out the system to its workforce. I'm going to explain this by drawing a handful of graphs to highlight this in more detail. To explain the graphs then, across the x-axis we have a range of departments covering adult services, environmental health, environmental services, children and young people, street scene and waste, and in those departments in red we've got highlighted the number of mobile users across those departments, and on the y-axis we can see the costs relating to mobilising each of those departments on a mobile working platform. So the example that we're going to look at first is what we call the bespoke solution. And what we mean by bespoke is that an external company will come in and write you a piece of software from scratch, completely tailored to your needs and requirements. So what we can see here as we're drawing out the graph is that the pricing is relatively static across each of the departments. Now, despite the fact that each of those departments might have significantly less mobile users in there, it doesn't really matter when it comes down to a bespoke solution, because the cost is detached from the number of users. The amount of code that needs to be written to get you off the ground needs to be written regardless of whether there's one user or 100 users in that department. Now, there are many generic reasons why going down the bespoke route can also cause lots of issues, but I think the critical one at the moment for a council who's considering this is that the lead-up time to map the business processes and to actually create the software is quite significant. And with the spending cuts upon us, the efficiencies need to be generated immediately. Therefore, getting your system live and operational quickly is essential. What you're seeing on screen at the moment is another common element of choosing the bespoke path, which are the variations. It's the extra unforeseen costs that you need to put onto the project in order to get your solution live. So in conclusion then, here's the crux of the issue for going down the bespoke solution path. Your costs are static regardless of your users, and therefore there's no economies of scale for you to leverage. So as your departments shrink in mobile workers, the cost rockets on a per user basis. Ultimately, your investment just isn't realised, as departments cannot afford to buy into the corporate platform. Okay, so let's look at another example. So let's talk about the second option, which we would call the toolkit option. Now, this is where you would buy into piece of software from an external company, but you would hand that to your IT team, and from that piece of software they would create applications for the workers within the council. So effectively your IT are doing the development. Importantly, on the y-axis, it's not just the cost of the software therefore that we've included here, but also the resource needed from your IT team to complete the development. Now, this approach has actually had some buy-in across councils throughout the UK and works quite well for some of the more simple applications that need to be built. With the toolkit options, your issues start when a department requires a more technical solution. Perhaps they need GPS tracking, they might need multiple system integration. And what happens is the internal demand on IT goes up, and especially if you don't have dedicated resource such as developers in-house, and therefore it becomes increasingly difficult to price on a per user basis what the total cost of the project will actually be for the council. So let's move on to the final option, which is how Consilium would approach a mobile working project. So our approach using TotalMobile is off the shelf. And this is important because it means that no code needs to be written, there's no bespoke variations. Currently we don't charge for any changes or any change requests that are put through to us on the mobile working product, and it's a very, very flexible system. Now, importantly, as you can see in the graph, the price is relevant to the amount of users that are in that department. So you can start small or you can start big. The size of the project doesn't really matter. The important point here is that the corporate-ready nature of TotalMobile frees the council to mobilise the department that requires immediate attention. So our ability to quickly deploy our applications means that councils start realising the efficiencies and start realising the savings as quickly as possible, given the current state of the financial climate. So using Consilium and TotalMobile, a local authority can very clearly plan ahead and see how much a corporate-ready project will cost them over the life of the system. So how is it that Consilium can actually offer this approach using TotalMobile? Well, critically, TotalMobile is made up of a range of applications which we'll introduce now. These are pre-built, highly configurable and live across a range of customer sites. So we have visits, which interacts with the user's diary to tell them what they're doing that day. We have forms, which can replicate any paper forms and display them on the device. Folio can pull down information from back office systems and display it on your tablet or PDA. Materials and timesheets allow costing information to be captured against tasks. Supervisors can manage multiple timesheets through Team Time, and Job Builder is there for pre-inspections and surveyors out on site. Compliance enforces health and safety procedures. Gas is an industry-specific inspection tool, whilst incidents and bulletins are corporate-wide applications for the recording of issues that you might see in the street and the pushing down of information to PDA devices other than using email. So how does all this get pulled together? Well, rather than actually building very specific solutions for each different type of role within the council, we've actually broken down all the mobile workers into 5 different work types. To explain these a little bit more then, a task worker is probably given a list of jobs to do throughout the day, and once those jobs are completed, they're done. A caseworker is someone who might repeatedly visit a service user, perhaps someone from within adult services. An inspector would probably reside within regulatory services or consumer protection, filling out forms and passing inspections on site. An enforcement worker is handing out fixed penalty notices on the spot. And the corporate user, or the citizen in this case, could be anybody out there with a mobile device that could log issues that they see in the community and feed those into a CRM system. Let's talk about the devices for a second then. TotalMobile can work on a range of devices, and we've just got a few here. So what we have for the task worker would be a standard PDA. With the amount of paper and information that might be needed on screen, your case and inspectors might prefer a tablet with a 3G connection, and your enforcement workers and corporate or citizen users might use a standard PDA, maybe a touchscreen version in this case. So let's start tying all of this together. So we can see what we're doing is we're taking the applications that we introduced on the earlier screen, they're being downloaded to the device, they're collecting information, they're passing that through our integration layer, which is an integration server, and out into the relevant database. Same for the caseworker, going out into adult children's services, and again the same for the inspector. Now the way that we handle the integration within TotalMobile is that we have a whole range of what we call adapters, which just simply push and pull data from your back office systems out to the mobile devices and sends it back in again. And this can work across any database in your department that is capable of sending data out and pulling data back in. So that's the TotalMobile approach. Quite simply, we negate your project risk because we're combining pre-built applications to create robust solutions for your mobile workforce. And because TotalMobile is off the shelf, we can have you up and running very quickly in order so that you can start generating a return on your investment. Thank you for watching. If you have any more questions, please contact us using the details on the screen, and we're more than happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you very much.